Welcome back to Artichoke Dip. We're going to have a special video for you. This video will include a story of 3 unaware people who decide for kicks on a very dark and cold fall night somewhere in America. In a suburb, quiet, lies an abandoned house, and as the sun goes down and the shadows grow darker and darker, these 3 individuals decide to venture inside to see what is in there. Let's meet our adventurers now in Betrayal of the House on the Hill. So, our first character is Ox Bellows. He was born October 18th. His hobbies are football and shiny objects. And I think murder. He weighs 288 pounds and his height is 6'4". He is an age of 23. Our next adventurer is Vivian Lopez. Born January 11th. Her hobbies are old movies and horses. And I think something much more dark than that. Her weight is 142 pounds. Her height is 5'5". Her age, 42. Let's meet our third adventurer, Heather Granville. Born August 2nd. Her hobbies, television and shopping. Oh, how quite American and quaint. I think Heather has a darker side she's not talking about. She weighs 120 pounds. She is 5'2" in height. And her age is a tender age of 18. So if we look at the birthdays, we can see that Ox Bellows, October 18th, he will start, followed by Vivian, then Heather. Before we get this video started, if you enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up or subscribe for my latest videos. Now, let's venture into Betrayal at the House on the Hill and see what our 3 victims, adventurers might find. Don't mind the blood, just blood. So, our first adventurer, Ox Bellows, opens up the door bravely as it creaks and enters a musty, old dark house, interior weathered, and this smell of emptiness. Followed behind him is Miss Vivian Lopez. And then behind Vivian is Heather Granville. Oxbellow says he's not scared. He'll venture on. He has a speed of 4. He walks deeper into the darkness of the house and goes into the first room. What is the first room will be the game room. And as you can see, we have an event. Oxbellow steps into the game room and takes in the old dusty items which adorn the walls and the floors. But something happens, something strange. Lights out. Your flashlight goes out, but don't worry. Someone else has batteries. Keep this card. You can move only one space each turn until you end your turn in the same room as another explorer. At the end of that turn, discard this card. Then you can move normally again. If you have the candle or end your turn in the furnace room, discard this card. Poor Ox, what horrors lurk in the dark recessed shadows of this abandoned abode. Vivian, mustering her courage, decides to venture into this first room and see what it has. And to her surprise, she steps back outside onto the patio. And there's an event. Revolving wall. The wall spins to another place. Place the wall switch token on a wall without an exit in this room, or a corner of this room. If there isn't a room on the other side of the wall, switch or draw a room tiles until you find one for this floor. Then put it into the house. If there are no more rooms on this floor, discard this card. Then put your explorer in that room. Once during an explorer's turn, if that explorer is in either room, he or she can attempt a knowledge roll to use the wall switch. Okay, so let's find the wall switch token here. Here we go. Now I'm going to place the wall switch actually, yes, that'll work right here. And the wall switch will open up into the game room where there is no door. Heather. Heather decides to venture further in the entrance hall into the foyer. And then she wants to show how brave she is for a young, independent young woman. She doesn't need an older woman as a mom figure or a younger, strong man to protect her. She will venture off on her own. As she walks into the abandoned room with an omen. Crystal ball. Hazy images appear in the glass. Once during your turn after the haunt is revealed, you can attempt a knowledge roll to peer into the crystal ball. A 4 or more, you see the truth. Search the item or event stack for a card of your choice. Shuffle that stack, then place that card on the top. 1 through 3, you avert your eyes and lose 1 sanity. If you roll a 0, you stare into hell. And you lose 2 sanity. Make a haunt roll now. So, using our haunt roll tracker here, I'm gonna put my 4-sider on 1. We're going to roll all 8 dice. And of course I dropped one. Alright, bear with me for a second. There it is. Well, I would have to say there's no haunt this turn. Such a pity. Back over to Mr. Oxbellows. Oh, he's in the dark, fumbling around. As he feels the wall, he comes across another doorway and walks into another room, a bloody room that contains an item. An idol. Perhaps it's chosen you for some greater purpose, like human sacrifice. We can only hope so. Once per turn, you can rub the idol before making any trait, combat, or event roll to add 2 dice to your roll to a maximum of 8 dice. Each time you do, you lose 1 sanity. Such a small price. Vivian Lopez goes over to the revolving wall. Let's see what she will find. Well, I'm having a hard time with the dice. Okay. So she's going to make a knowledge roll. She has a knowledge of 5, so we're gonna roll a total of 5 dice and see what the result is. 4. A 3 or more, the explorer finds the hidden switch and goes through. This doesn't count as a moving space. So she enters the game room and finds Ox Bellows in the dark, fumbling around. Oh, so Ox gets his batteries for his flashlight. Such a pity. Heather stands in the middle of this empty, abandoned room, decided which way to go. And after much thought, she decides the straightest path is the best, just in case she has to find her way back out. As she steps into the library, once per game, if you end your turn here, gain 1 knowledge. And of course, there is an event. Heather steps into the library, and let's see what evil may await her. A locked safe. Behind a portrait is a wall safe. It is trapped, of course. Put the safe token in this room. Once during an explorer's turn, that explorer can attempt a knowledge roll to open the safe. A 5 or more, draw 2 item cards and remove the safe token. 2 through 4, take 1 die of physical damage. The safe will not open. A 0 through 1, take 2 dice of physical damage. The safe will not open. Oh, I cannot wait. Let's see what happens to poor Heather. With a knowledge of 6, she is a smart girl after all. I can only hope she rolls all 0s. Well, it would appear that she rolls a 5. Such a pity. And of course, she draws 2 item cards and then remove the safe token. Healing Salve. A sticky paste in a shallow bowl. You can apply the healing salve to yourself or to another living explorer in the same room. If that explorer's might or speed is below its starting value, raise 1 or both traits to its starting value. Discard this item after you use it, or maybe before. Dark Dice. Are you feeling lucky? Once per turn, you can roll 3 dice. A 6, move to the location. Any explorer not revealed as a traitor. 5, move 1 other explorer in the same room into an adjacent room. 4, gain 1 physical trait. 3, immediately move into an adjacent room, no movement cost. 2, gain 1 in a mental trait. 1, draw an event card. 0, reduce all of your traits to the lowest value above the skull symbol. Discard the dark dice. I think you should gamble, Heather. I think you should gamble. Let's check back in on Ox, shall we? Well, Ox doesn't want to look like he's too afraid, even in front of a woman almost double his age. He wipes the sweat from his brow, proclaiming that it's hot in here, but really, it's from his nervousness and adrenaline. He decides to step into the next room. Gymnasium. Once per game, if you end your turn here, gain 1 speed. Well, for a meathead like Ox, he should feel right at home here. And of course, there is an omen. A madman. A companion, a raving, frothing madman. You gain 2 might and lose 1 sanity now. Lose 2 might and gain 1 sanity if you lose custody of the madman. This omen cannot be dropped, traded, or stolen. Make a haunt roll now. So, he gains 2 might, 1 sanity. And, of course, our haunt marker moves up to 2. A 6. Such a pity. Vivian Lopez rolls her eyes, knowing the young man is afraid but won't admit it. She decides to press further and go through the doorway to see what is on the other side. She finds the ballroom and an event. Drip, drip, drip. A rhythmic sound that needles at your brain. Put the drip token in this room. Each explorer rolls 1 fewer die, a minimum of 1, on all trait rolls while in this room. Let's see what has come of Heather. Well, Heather stopped in the library and she gained 1 knowledge. She is now a 7. Her mother would be so proud of an academic like herself. Curious of these dice she found, she decides to roll them. Let's see what happens to Heather. A 1. She draws an event card. Mystic Slide. If you're in the basement, this event affects the next explorer to your left. But we're not in the basement yet. The floor falls from under you. Place the slide token in this room. Then attempt a might roll to use the slide. A 5 or more, you control the slide. Put yourself in any explored room on any floor below the slide. 0 through 4, draw tiles from the room. Stack until you draw a basement room. Place the room tile. If no basement rooms are in the stack, choose a basement room in play. You fall to that room and take 1 die of physical damage. If it's not your turn, don't draw a card for that room. On later turns, any explorer can attempt this roll to use the slide. Let's find the slide token. She rolls 3 dice for her might. And she rolls a 4. She slides into the pentagram chamber with an omen. When exiting, you must attempt a knowledge roll of 4 or more. If you fail, lose 1 sanity, but continue to move. She falls to the floor in the pentagram chamber, taking 1 physical point of damage. She finds a medallion inscribed with a pentagram. You are immune to the effects of the pentagram chamber, crypt, and graveyard. Make a haunt roll now. Oh, Heather. Such a pity. The haunt roll is now a 3. Let us see. A 5. Such a pity. Now, let's go back to Ox. Ox decides to venture to the other part of the gymnasium. Let's see what he finds. A collapsed room. You must attempt a speed roll of 5 or more to avoid falling. If you fail the roll, draw a basement tile and put it into play. You fall there and take 1 die of physical damage. Such Such a pity. He has a speed of 4. But he will pull out the idol. And as he caresses the idol and stares at it, and weird energy overcomes him, and he feels a chill in his soul. He loses 1 sanity, but gets 2 extra dice to his roll. Poor ox. A 9. Such a pity. As he sees the floor ready to buckle from beneath him, he is able to walk to the outside edge, where the floor still supports his weight, until he enters the research laboratory with an event. A spider the size of a fist lands on your shoulder and crawls into your hair. It just wants to snuggle. You must attempt a speed roll to brush it away, or a sanity roll to stand still. A 4 or more, it's gone. Gain 1 in the trait you use to attempt this roll. A 1 through 3, it bites you. Take 1 die of physical damage. A 0, it takes a chunk out of you. Take 2 dice of physical damage. Oh. It seems like Mr. Ox doesn't like pets. He's not a pet person. Ox is going to use his might. He has 6 after all. And he only rolls a 3. Oh, poor Ox. It bites you. Take 1 die of physical damage. He must have sensed that Ox isn't a pet person. Poor fuzzy spider. Now let's see what Vivian is up to. Vivian is in the ballroom. And although she heard some ruckus, what sounded like splintering wood a few rooms away, she decides to head towards that direction and go to the next door. She enters a charred room with an omen. A bite, a growl, the scent of death and pain, darkness, gone. When you draw this card, something bites you. The player on your right rolls a might 4 attack against you. For the mysterious something before it runs away into the darkness. You defend against this attack as normal by rolling dice equal to your might. This omen can't be dropped, traded, or stolen. Oh, poor Vivian. And you thought this trip would be fun. A 5. Vivian sadly only has a might of 2. A 3. Vivian screams out in pain as she feels flesh being ripped from her, and then whatever the dark, shadowy creature was recesses back into the shadows. Our haunt roll is now at 4. But not this time. Such a pity. Well, Heather has quite found herself some interesting jewelry and new gaming aids to play with inside of the pentagram chamber. She decides to step out and finds herself at the basement landing. One door leads up of what she can see to the upper floor, and the other 2 continue on to the basement. She decides to continue on through the basement. After all, it seems like the basement floor is much more stable than the ground room floor. She walks through the doorway into the statuary room corridor with an event. Something slimy. What's around your ankle? A bug? A tentacle? A dead hand crawling? You must attempt a speed roll. A 4 or more, you break free and gain 1 speed. A 1 through 3, you lose 1 might. A 0, you lose 1 might and 1 speed. Heather has a 4 speed. A 3. A 1 through 3. She feels a stinging pain into her ankle. And something, as it releases its grip, feels like fangs being torn back from the flesh of her ankle as blood begins to run and pool into her shoe. And she loses 1 might. Yes. She starts to feel her life force dwindle. Now, Ox in the research laboratory found a new friend, although he doesn't like very much, and a dead end. He has no choice but to walk back out into the collapsed room floor. Let's see if he makes it this time. He has a speed of 4, and he has to have a 5 or better. At what she does roll a 5, he succeeds. Such a pity. 2, 3, 4. Ox starts heading back towards the entrance that he came in. Perhaps a little unnerved. The big, strong, hulking ox unnerved. And a little bit lighter, missing a chunk of flesh. And then one of Vivian, poor Vivian, in the charred room, looking around her wondering, was it kids that lit a fire? Or perhaps a ritual that went wrong? And what was that thing in the shadow that attacked her? Is this real? Is this really happening? She decides to exit the room and find something perhaps a little bit more quiet. She steps into the creaking hallway. As she walks onto the floorboards let out a large creak. Unnerving, she can hear her pulse pounding in her ears. She decides to go towards the right. Where, to her surprise, she is greeted by fresh, cool outside autumn air onto the balcony with an omen. A skull. A skull cracked and missing teeth. If you take mental damage, you can take all of it as physical damage instead. Make a haunt roll now. The haunt roll is now a 5. A 6. Such a pity. So Heather, at this point, trying as hard as she can to keep her tears from welling up in her eyes and contain her fright, races to the end of the statuary room. Into an underground lake. did I forget to mention with an event? Something hidden. There's something odd about this room. But what? It's tickling the back of your mind. If you want to try to figure out what's odd, attempt a knowledge roll. Well, let's see what's so odd about this room. Heather, being the brain of this group, surely should be able to figure out what's going on here. A four more. A section of wall slides away, revealing an alcove. Draw an item card. A candle. It makes the shadows move, at least. You hope it's doing that. If you draw an event card, roll one additional die, maximum of 8 dice, for that event's trait rolls. If you have the bell, book, and candle, gain 2 in each trait. The first time you lose one of those 3 items in the game, lose 2 from each trait. Oh, Heather. As she makes her way onto more dry ground, happy that she's found a candle, at least she'll see what's attacking her this time. Oh, Mr. Ox bellows, strong, strong ox. He decides perhaps it's time to go search somewhere else in the house. As he steps out into the foyer, running towards the entrance, it crosses his mind to run. Run home and forget that this nightmare has ever happened. But then, something in the back of his mind. What if the other two were in on a prank? What would his friends think? More or less, what would his girlfriend think? He decides he cannot leave. He'll check out this part of the house. He enters into the bedroom with an event. Possession. A shadow separates from the wall. As you stand in shock, the shadow surrounds you and chills you to the core. You must choose any one trait and attempt to roll for that trait. Let's see. Ox, ox, ox. Well, I say we try his sanity, because we know his might's not gonna help him here. Oh, A 0 through 3. The shadow drains your energy. The chosen trait drops to its lowest value. It doesn't drop to the skull. If that trait is already at its lowest value, lower a different trait to its lowest value. Perhaps, Ox, you should have ran out of the house and left. And Vivian. Vivian stands on the balcony getting fresh air, and the cold air feels good. She convinces herself that the shadow was nothing more than a trick of light as shadow. And all in her mind. Yes, in her mind. She must have scraped herself up against something in the room. Perhaps a rusty nail or something like that. She, at that point, smokes a cigarette on the balcony to calm her nerves and decides to go back into the house. After all, she is the adult in this little soiree, isn't she? And as she flicks the cigarette out of the balcony, she walks back in, sure of herself that there's nothing odd going on in here. It's just all in her imagination. Or perhaps those kids put her up to this, and they're behind all of it. And she will find out if it's them or their friends helping them. She steps back into the creaking hallway, makes a right, and continues on. She finds the vault with an event. Phone call. A phone rings in the room. You feel compelled to answer it. Roll 2 dice. Vivian rolls her eyes. She's for sure now that the kids are up to this. Obviously, with their cell phones, they must have set this whole entire thing up. She picks up the phone. She hears a sweet little granny's voice say, "I'm here, sweetums. Give us a kiss." And she hears the phone go silent. She takes 1 mental damage. Oh. Heather. As she walks out of the lake water, afraid what may be lurking in the depths of the water, she seeks refuge in more dry conditions. As she passes through the doorway, her flashlight illuminates a wine cellar. Wine bottles covered in dust. And a item. Perhaps a drink to calm her nerves. A rabbit's foot. Not so lucky for the rabbit. Once during your turn, you can re-roll one die. You must keep the second roll. Oh, lucky for her. And there's Ox. Oh, Ox. Sweating bullets now, aren't we? Thinking you could fight off anything. Except that he's slowly learning there are forces in this world which are beyond his physical control. He quickly leaves the room, stumbling over his own feet. Scared, pale white, looking to exit the area. He walks into a small chapel with an advent. Fortunately, if he ends his turn there, which he will gain one sanity. Perhaps the quiet surroundings help him rationalize what he has just encountered. As he catches his breath and tries to collect his mental faculties about him, about all the horrible things that have just happened, he hears a hideous shriek. It starts like a whisper, but ends in a soul-rendering shriek. Each explorer must attempt a sanity roll. Poor Ox. Oh, clinging on to the frayed ends of your sanity as it is now. A 3. He takes 1 die of mental damage. Such a pity, lucky for him. Vivian, on the other hand, takes 1 die of mental damage as she hears the horrible shriek echo through the hallways. She is surely unnerved and ready to lose everything. Heather, even though she's in the basement, which seems like miles away, she hears this shriek echo throughout the house. But considering what she's encountered so far, a shrieking scare doesn't bother her too much. It's probably one of her companions. Vivian tries to collect her mental faculties. She sees a locked door in front of her and decides she will try to open it. With a 6 or more on a knowledge roll, she will open the door to find out what's beyond it. a 4. Mm-hmm. This lock just seems as if it's, well, way more than she can possibly comprehend. After all, she is doomed. Heather decides to push on into the next room. She finds a staircase that leads from the basement to the foyer. As she climbs the staircase, she comes out into the foyer, confused as to how she got there. But nevertheless, she looks around and she can hear creaky floorboards on that end of the house. And she can hear what sounds like the ramblings of an insane person coming from that wing of the house. She decides to walk towards the upstairs. Perhaps as she gets further up, she can look out a window, get a better idea of what's going on outside. As she comes up onto the upper landing, she decides to go straight through the door to see what's beyond. As the door opens, she finds an elevator, a mystic elevator. Rolling 2 dice, let's see what she's moved to. As the door closes, and she feels nervous. It almost feels as if she's going down. As the door opens, she finds herself once again in the basement where she started. Such a pity. Now, let's go back to Mr. Ox, sobbing like a little girl. He decides to head back out of this room to try to meet up with one of his fellow adventurers to get a bit of sanity. He moves to the end of the staircase landing. He thought he just heard some movement up on the upper floor. As he yells out, "Is there anybody there?" Vivian hears a familiar voice coming from the other end of the house. She decides to move that way. The lock, after all, it's beyond her scope of training. But she decides, before she leaves, one more time to see if she can open the lock. a 4. Such a pity. She decides at that point to exit the room back out into the creaky staircase. Something draws her attention to the hallway behind her. At this point, Heather looks around, tears up for a moment, and decides to take the stairway back up into the library and move her way back out into the main foyer. She meets up with a familiar face, and she feels frightened when she sees her large, muscular friend all riled up and sick with fear. Ox clears his throat because he doesn't want to look scared to the young lady, and decides, let's go check the upstairs. As he says, there's nothing going on down here. Nothing interesting anyway. He enters the top of the landing and sees a doorway as he passes through. He enters the organ room, and there's an event. Hangman. A breeze chills the room before you. 3 men hang from frayed ropes. They stare at you with cold, dead eyes. The trio swinging silently, then fade into dust that falls to the ground. You stare, and Ox begins to choke. You must attempt a roll for each trait. Well, let's see how Ox fares. Ox's first trait, speed. He rolls a 7. It's unaffected. His might is a 6. He rolls a 5. It's unaffected. His sanity is a 2. He loses 1 sanity. Poor Ox, holding on to what little sanity he has left in this world, and his knowledge, which is a 3. He rolls a 5. Unaffected. Such a pity. Let's see what Vivian has found. Vivian decides to go through, down the hallway, into the next room. Vivian opens up the door, exits back outside into the cold air, into the graveyard, When exiting, you must attempt a sanity roll of 4 or more. If you fail, lose 1 knowledge, but continue moving. And there's an event. As Vivian steps outside this door onto tall, unkept grass, as she's walking around looking and her eyes are adjusting, she notices what she thinks are rocks are actually headstones. It suddenly strikes her. She's in the graveyard. And then she can see tall wrought iron fences with sharp points on the top, and no way to scale them to get out. She will have to go back through the house to get out of this area. Whoops. You feel a body under your foot. Before you can leap away from it, you're knocked over. A giggling voice runs away from you. Turn over all your item cards, not your omen cards, and shuffle them. Then randomly discard one of those cards. Such a pity. Well, it would seem Vivian has no cards to lose. But perhaps a little sanity. Vivian, terrified at her experience, turns and begins to run towards the door, exiting the graveyard. Heather follows after Ox up the stairs. She gets to the top of the landing and she remembers this doorway and where it took her. And she decides she doesn't want to go that way. She knows what waits in there, and she hopes that Ox didn't go there. So she decides to go off this way. She walks into a junk room. When exiting, you must attempt a might roll of 3 or more. If you fail, you lose 1 speed, but you continue moving. And an omen. A ring. A battered ring with an incomprehensible inscription. If you attack an opponent that has a sanity trait, you can attack with sanity instead of might. Your opponent then defends with sanity, and damage is mental instead of physical. Make a haunt roll now. Our haunt is now at a 6. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Such a pity. Ox tears back out of the room and runs blindly into what he thinks has to be somewhere safer. Oh, poor Ox. He runs into the master bedroom with an omen. A spear, a weapon pulsing with power. You roll 2 additional dice, a maximum of 8 dice, when making a might attack with this weapon. You can't use another weapon while you're using this one. Make a haunt roll now. Our haunt is now at a 7. Two, three, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm afraid. The haunt has begun. It looks like there's no escaping this house. So, we had the master bedroom with the spear. Our haunt will be number 43. The trader takes the trader's tomb and leaves the room. Let's see what happens. Your masters are finally here. You grovel at the ground as a giant. Floating eye descends from this ship and hovers just above you. It is time for your friends to discover the truth and bow before their new lords. Right now, if there are 3 or 4 players, set aside one small orange monster token to represent the alien. If there are 5 or 6 players, set aside 2 tokens. Put your explorer's figure on the spaceship token. Your explorer is now out of the game, along with all of that character's items and omens awaiting transport. What you know about the heroes, they're trying to keep you from abducting them. They have a way to free themselves from the aliens' control. You win. All the heroes are either dead or on the spaceship. As Ox notices the floating eye, a bright light fills the room. Every crack and crevice. He feels motionless and feels as if time has stopped somehow. When Ox comes to, he finds himself on an examining table on a ship. Tall, slender, dark gray figures with almond-shaped eyes stand around him. With medical tools he has never seen before or could fathom, he witnesses as they begin to cut into his skull. Such a pity. You're nuts right now, Heather and Vivian. You're not certain if what you sense is a whine almost too high to hear, or a thumbering almost too deep to feel. Maybe it's both. Cool blue lights pulse once, then again. Someone screams. The masters have come for us. The great eyes will consume our brains. Right now. Aliens can use mind control ability to manipulate heroes. They can do this to all the heroes in a room. So stay spread out if you can. You win when you disable the spaceship so it can't take off with your friends. You must do this on your turn. If you are under an alien's control, the trader will move you towards the room with the spaceship at the beginning of your next turn. After you enter that room, you board the spaceship and you are out of the game. You cannot attack or take other actions while an alien is controlling you. For simplicity's sake, we will say this is the spaceship. And how I do love a world of miniatures. We will use this fellow as the alien. The special attack rules for the alien. The aliens have a mind control ability. Instead of making a might attack, an alien can make a sanity attack against adjacent each hero in the same room as it. Resolve each attack separately. If a hero defeats the alien during the special attack, neither takes damage. If an alien defeats a hero, that hero doesn't take damage, but falls under the alien's control instead. Once an alien has control of the hero, you move that hero on his or her turn towards the room with the spaceship token. The controlled hero does not need to make die rolls or take damage required by room tiles. Controlled heroes cannot attack or take other actions after the controlled hero gets to the room with the spaceship. He, at that point, is boarded onto the spaceship. The heroes now a secret way to free each other from the alien's control. Aliens can control someone only once. When a hero is freed, he or she becomes immune to the alien's mind control ability. Aliens are immune to speed attacks, such as those using the revolver or dynamite. Aliens that are stunned can still maintain control of any hero they have defeated in sanity combat. Well, our alien has a speed of 4, a might of 6, and a sanity of 6. The alien moves. Well, first of all, let's see how many spaces our little alien gets to move. He moves into the room where Heather is and attempts to take control of her mind. Innate, Heather has a sanity of 4. Let's see if Heather she will use her rabbit's foot item. And we had an 8. But she only has a 4. Ooh, she can re-roll 1 die. Not that it'll matter. And the result's the same. Such a pity. Heather is taken under the control of the alien. Vivian, as she runs back into the house, to the creaky doorway, creaky stairway, decides perhaps it's time to leave this place. As Heather's brought into the room where the ship is, she, of course herself, feels a loss of time and weightlessness. A bright flash of light, and then when she comes to, she sees a familiar face next to her. With an almost ghoulish look on his face, an expression of terror, she realizes he's surrounded by tall, slender figures with dark eyes. And to her horror, she's restrained to the table she's on as another group of tall, slender aliens come out. They begin to operate on her. The alien, at that point, makes his way back out into the foyer. 1, 2, 3, 4. The alien and Vivian make eye contact. She cannot believe what she's seeing. The alien has 2 for a stamina sanity attack. Vivian has 4 sanity. She resists the alien's mind control. It somehow is filled with vengeance. She steps forward and musters all the bravery she has and tries to beat this thing with her fists. Unfortunately, when the alien truly reveals its true form, instead of a small, frail, gray creature, it turns into this monstrosity nightmare and hovers over her in the room, ready to tear her from limb to limb. The creature at that point bares its razor-sharp claws and swipes across Vivian's face. Oh, such a pity. Vivian feels the claws dig deep into her neck, and then she feels the sudden feeling of faintness as blood from her jugular exits the room. Blood squirting all over the room. And then, before everything goes dark, and she passes, she makes the mental connection in her mind. The connection of how the other room became so bloody. With the help of your so-called friend. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong book. Your masters are pleased with your gift to them. Your friends will make most excellent subjects for xenobiological experiments. And of course, the masters have promised to let you keep the eyes as souvenirs. Alright guys, that's going to conclude this game of Betrayal at House on the Hill. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know some of you asked for some gameplays. I know this one was a bit lengthy, and you know, just to show you the way that I do it solo, and you can have a lot of fun with this. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a like, push the subscribe button to get my latest videos, and thanks a lot guys, and bottom of my heart, for all of you that have subscribed to support my channel, thank you so much. I can't say enough to keep making great videos like this. Alright guys, I will catch you next time. Artichoke dip out.